Soft life, thin floor. How modern prosperity masked the erosion of structural security. By Elias Winter. September 22nd, 2025. Read by an automated voice. Chapter 1. A Century in 3 Rooms. Room 1, 1910. Coal dust on the sill, a kettle that whistles but never quite boils right. A ledger on the table with numbers that look like bruises. Bread, rent, coal. Bread, rent, coal. 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day, and when Sunday comes, you mend what broke and hope the cough stops. The children aren't props in a sepia photograph. They're hands on small tools. Dinner is steady only when wages are. Comfort is a borrowed coat. You return it at dawn. If you want a measurement, here is one you can feel. Most of the pay disappears into food, a chunk into a room with thin walls, the rest into heat. There is no cushion, no spare line in the ledger. A cut finger can end a week. A bad week can end a season. What keeps people upright isn't savings. There aren't any. It's proximity. The neighbor who shares a sack of flour, the cousin who knows the foreman, the corner where news travels faster than the post. Room 2, 1955. Different light. The kitchen hums. A refrigerator that closes with a confident thump. A coffee tin with real coins in it. The mortgage booklet clipped to a nail. A union card under a magnet. There's a car outside that starts most mornings. A school down the block where the paint is only peeling in the back. And a calendar with actual vacations circled in pen. You still work hard, but the week is shorter and the weekend is not make-believe. You buy things because they'll last, and when something breaks, you can fix it or replace it without bargaining with fear. Comfort is present. Appliances, meat on weeknights, a radio that becomes a television. But the important change is the texture underfoot. There is a floor. If the factory trims a shift, there's unemployment pay. If you get sick, there's a plan. If you keep showing up, there's a pension at the far end, not generous, but there. The house is small, the foundation is not. You don't measure your life by the brand names you can reach, but by the hazards you can withstand. Security is not a feeling. It's the furniture you don't see. Contracts, insurance, protections. Quiet, dull, dependable. Room 3, 2025. Everything glows. The countertop is smooth. The screen is smarter than the radio ever dreamed of being. The thermostat knows your habits, and groceries appear because you tapped a glass rectangle. The coffee is better, the music is instant, the map talks to you. By almost every visible standard, this room is richer than the others. You can taste strawberries in winter and hold the world's library in your palm. If comfort had a showroom, it would be here. And yet, on the counter sits a white envelope with your name printed too sharply. A bill that arrived early. In the drawer, a benefits booklet you never finished reading. On the phone, a message from a number that starts with "Do not reply." Your job is a login more than a place. Your boss is a calendar invite. Your performance review is a graph. You are not hungry, but you are easily winded by small surprises. The floor, which looked solid in the morning, becomes thin when someone in another building clicks the wrong checkbox. If the car's transmission fails the same month the molar cracks, you will learn how quickly a room full of comforts can feel like it's missing a beam. Here the measurements split. On one side, the share of income that goes to food is small. Devices are common. The week has pockets of leisure that would have looked luxurious in room 1. On the other side, half the rent swallows the paycheck before the streaming app suggests anything. A large number of households cannot pay an unexpected bill without borrowing. The bottom half of the country owns very little beyond the items in the room. Comfort is abundant and public. Security, when it exists, is private and uneven. 3 rooms, 1 country. We climbed from scarcity into ease and then, almost without noticing, swapped part of the foundation for nicer furniture. That is not an argument against the furniture. Warmth and convenience are not sins. It is a reminder that a soft chair does not thicken a joist. The progress that matters most is the kind that holds when the phone vibrates with bad news at 2:17 p.m. Walk back through the rooms and listen. In 1910, the sound is breath over work. In 1955, it's a refrigerator motor and a quiet kind of certainty. In 2025, it's notifications. The temptation is to say we've never had it so good. In visible ways, true. But the story that keeps getting us into trouble is the one that confuses pleasant surfaces with reliable ground. The next chapter isn't about nostalgia. It's about the bargain that made Room 2 possible and how, step by step, we let its sturdier parts loosen while the gadgets multiplied. Turn the page. Let's name the deal. Chapter 2. The Quiet Deal. It didn't arrive with a speech. It arrived as a habit. A lunch pail world shook hands with a briefcase world and worked something out. Steady wages for steady work. A card in the wallet that meant your shop stood together. A mortgage with a rate you could pronounce. If the line went down, there was a check to bridge the gap. The names differed by city, GI Bill, Union Hall, shop steward, but the promise was simple. You do your part, we'll make sure the floor holds. For a while, it did. Through the 1950s and 60s, millions climbed onto that floor. Union coverage hovered around a third of the workforce. One income could carry a house with small rooms and big hopes. The refrigerator was new, the car was used, the future was assumable. Taxes at the top were steep, finance was leashed, and the factory didn't vanish overnight because a spreadsheet somewhere blinked. Then the deal learned to whisper. The first hint came in the mail. A thin rectangle that said, you no longer had to wait. Why save when you can swipe? Why bargain when you can finance? The pension you could count was exchanged for an account you had to manage. Defined benefit became defined contribution, which sounded almost empowering until a bad decade on the market erased the difference. On the docks, steel boxes stacked 10 high change prices without changing paychecks. Cheaper shirts, cheaper toys, cheaper everything, comfort multiplied. In the office, a new program promised efficiency, then another promised flexibility, and the calendar kept the proof. Full-time turned into full-ish, then part-time, then contract. The benefits booklet grew thicker as the coverage grew thinner. Your plan now had networks, tiers, and a deductible that introduced itself like a new supervisor. We didn't abolish security. We itemized it. Risk that once sat on company ledgers slid into household budgets. The layoff moved from rumor to link. The raise became a bonus with an asterisk. The year-end talk about your future here turned into a login for a portal where you picked your own risk profile. A firm promise became a personal choice with fine print. Meanwhile, the shelves were never empty. Big box aisles, and then the internet taught you to measure life by selection. The phone outpaced last year's computer. Flights got cheaper. Fees got smarter. If comfort were a vote, it won in a landslide. The show dazzled and the ticket price hid in small charges. Premiums, co-pays, service fees, surge pricing, a new category called convenience. You can diagram the switch on a napkin, from contracts to options. The words feel friendly, the stress does not. From wages to credit. A raise you repay with interest. From shared guarantees to individual plans. When the wheel slips, the hand on it is yours. No villain twirled a mustache. Boards chased margins. Lawmakers chased growth. Economists chased innovation. Each change looked technical up close and historic from across the room. Add them together and you get a country where the couch got softer while the joists grew spare. The strangest part of the quiet deal is how polite it is. It doesn't shout. It forwards you to another department. It thanks you for your patience. It offers you points. It asks you to rate the experience. You give 4 stars because the package came on time, even though the floor creaked under the weight. If you want to see the trade in one conversation, sit in an HR office the day a company modernizes retirement. There is a slideshow with rounded icons. There is a promise of choice. There is a Q&A, where someone in the back asks a clean question. Does this mean less certainty? And the answer is a sentence that never uses the word yes. Across town, a warehouse celebrates a new record for orders shipped. At the checkout, a family smiles over a cart full of goods that would have looked extravagant in 1955. Back home, the mother scrolls through her insurer's app to figure out which clinic won't punish her for choosing the wrong door. The father logs into his investment account to see if the month was kind or cruel. The kids ask what out-of-network means. No one at the table is doing badly. Everyone is doing math. That is the quiet deal. Keep the surface dazzling, move the risk into private life. It isn't a conspiracy. It's a sequence. Trade agreements here, deregulation there, new software, new scheduling, new fees, that adds up to a country with bright rooms and a delicate subfloor. Room 2 had a floor because promises were written down and enforced. Room 3 has comfort because promises turned into products. We didn't stop caring about stability. We just priced it a la carte and asked households to build their own kit. In the next chapter, we'll lift the rug and count. Not to drown you in figures, but to show how the numbers line up with what your bones already know. The chairs are nicer now, but the ground hasn't kept pace. Chapter 3. Numbers under the carpet. You can argue with mood. You can't argue with the bill that lands on a Tuesday. So let's lift the carpet and look at the nails, not the wallpaper. Start with the easiest story. The grocery run. A century ago, food swallowed paychecks. Now it doesn't. In 2024, Americans spent about 1/10 of disposable income on food, low by world standards and far from the old days when dinner devoured the week. Comfort is real in the aisle. Plenty, variety, strawberries in January. Economic Research Service. But groceries aren't the floor. Housing is. And here the math cuts back. Half of U.S. renter households are cost-burdened, spending over 30% of income just to keep a key that fits. In 2022, that meant 22.4 million renter families. The burden shows up first as a skipped dental visit, then as a car that needs tires, then as a late fee that breeds another. Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies. Savings is where the carpet lifts all the way. Ask a simple question. If something breaks, transmission, molar, wrist, can you pay $400 without borrowing? In 2023, only 63% of adults said yes with cash or its equivalent. The rest would sell, swipe, or hope. That's a nation with nice couches and a thin margin. Federal Reserve. Wealth is the long view of that margin. Wages pay the month. Wealth absorbs the hit. The bottom half of Americans, tens of millions of households, own about 2 to 3% of the country's net worth. 2% is not a cushion. It's a handrail on a staircase with missing steps. Fred. You can plot these on napkins. Comfort line, food share down, devices up, hot showers on demand. Floor line, rent heavy, savings thin, wealth light at the bottom. The lines don't tell the same story. Now put people to the numbers. A teacher with a steady contract runs a household like a cockpit. Rent, childcare, premiums, co-pays, the inscrutable letter about allowed amounts. Comfort is everywhere. The freezer hums, the living room glows. Security is a riddle inside a helpline queue. The day her insurer reprocesses a claim, the floor bows. A warehouse worker can buy shoes that don't hurt and a phone that maps the fastest route to the night shift. That's not nothing. That's progress you can touch. But when a landlord raises rent by 8%, comfort does not negotiate. The spreadsheet does. A mid-level analyst has a car that starts and a coffee machine that shows off. He also has a pay stub that moves sideways while the lease moves up. One layoff email does more damage than 100 product launches can fix. None of this asks you to be nostalgic for coal stoves and untreated infections. It asks you to see the split. Visible comfort climbed, invisible margins stalled. The danger is not poverty in the old sense. It's fragility. Lives balanced so tightly that small shocks feel like cliffs. If you like clean measures, here's a simple pair to carry. Comfort check. Share of income on basics, down over time. Economic Research Service. Floor check. Emergency expense capacity, stuck. Renter burden, record highs. Bottom half wealth share, tiny. Federal Reserve. Those 3 floor checks rhyme. Heavy rent leaves no slack. No slack means borrowing for dents and fevers. Borrowing keeps wealth from forming. The room looks well appointed. The subfloor never thickens. The numbers aren't the whole story, but they set the scene. If you feel richer on the surface and more exposed underneath, it's not a mood. It's arithmetic. The next chapter isn't a chart. It's about the things that resist photography. Promises, guarantees, those quiet pieces of life you only notice when they fail. Chapter 4. Things that don't photograph. Take a picture of a kitchen and it looks like prosperity. Stainless appliances, a plant that's somehow still alive, good light. Try to photograph the rule that prevents your rent from jumping mid-lease. Try to photograph the clause that keeps your insurer from backdating a denial. You can't. The camera loves surfaces. Stability hides in paperwork. Security is a collection of dull miracles. The notice period before a job ends, the cap on a copay, the tenant right to cure before eviction, the union steward who sits in when a supervisor just wants to chat. None of it looks heroic. It's manuals, timelines, signatures. It's the difference between today was bad and this month will end us. Comfort is a playlist. Security is a protocol. One you feel, the other you count on. Think about the most boring word in a free society. Process. A grievance path at work. An appeal window on a claim. A budgeting rule that keeps essential services running even when politicians are grandstanding. These slow you down on purpose. The delay is not an accident, it's a guardrail. Without it, power moves at the speed of whim. There are other invisibles. Continuity. A contract that outlasts a boss. A school that stays open because funding doesn't swing with election ads. Redundancy. 2 suppliers for insulin. A second server for unemployment systems when the first one buckles. Slack that looks wasteful until the day it saves you. Clarity. Plain language bills. Itemized fees. Rules you can read without hiring a translator. None of these will win design awards. All of them make the floor hold. We used to build security into the job itself. Seniority ladders, predictable schedules, pensions that paid the same whether the market smiled or sulked. Now we rent security by the month. Subscriptions, extended warranties, private plans, savings apps that promise peace if you only round up your purchases. It's not that private workarounds are evil. It's that they're narrow. They protect the individual who can pay, not the street you live on. Notice what a healthy neighborhood shares that a luxury condo does not. A reliable bus, a clinic that answers the phone, a tenant hotline, a local paper nosy enough to make officials nervous, a park kept open late in summer heat. These don't sparkle. They knit. Security is a public thing or it isn't much. A quick tour of the hidden furniture in any decent life. Income stabilizers, unemployment checks that arrive fast, predictable child benefits, paid sick days so a cough doesn't cost a job. Health guarantees, coverage that doesn't vanish between gigs, out-of-pocket ceilings that don't feel like a dare, surprise billing barred like a scam. Housing rules, caps on mid-lease hikes, basic habitability enforced without a 4-month odyssey, eviction as a last resort, not a business model. Workplace voice, a contract, a real one. With teeth and timelines, not a poster in the break room. Public oversight. inspectors who can't be fired for doing their jobs, records you can request, audits that land before the scandal does. If this sounds unromantic, good. Romance doesn't keep your heat on when the biller misreads a meter. Security runs on a different fuel: legibility, predictability, and the right to fix a mistake before it ruins you. Why did these unphotogenic things thin out? Because shiny progress was easier to sell. It's simple to market a thinner laptop, hard to market a thicker appeal window. You can demo a delivery app. You can't demo a fair hearing. The result is a country fluent in amenities and rusty at guarantees. And yet you know the difference. You know it when a dentist says, "We can put it on a plan," and you realize your mouth is a credit product. You know it when a temporary outage at the benefits portal costs you a month you can't spare. You know it when your friend's layoff arrives with a gift card, a smile, and no severance. These are not failures of comfort. They are absences of structure. The truth tucked under all the receipts is simple. Comfort without backup is a stage set. It looks great until the weather changes. When it does, the only things that matter are the ones nobody hung on the wall: rules, rights, timelines, floors. One more picture, then. Imagine two identical rooms. Same couch, same coffee, same phone, same plants. In the first, your lease can't jump without notice, your health plan can't spring traps, and a lost job triggers help before the rent is due. In the second, none of that is true. The rooms look the same. They are not the same. We've spent a century perfecting what the lens can see. The next chapter is about making the unseen sturdy again, not with slogans, but with fixtures. Time to stop polishing the sofa and start bolting the subfloor. Chapter 5. Make the ground hold. Pretty rooms don't keep you standing. Fixtures do. So here's the work. Swap slogans for hardware and bolt the ground until it stops flexing. 1. Health that doesn't knock you over. The quickest way to thicken the floor is to remove the trapdoors. A real ceiling on out-of-pocket costs that can't be gamed by networks and codes. No surprise bills, full stop. If it wasn't clear in plain English before the visit, it isn't collectible. Coverage that follows the person between jobs and gigs. Your ID, your plan. Fast pay for clinics that serve the uninsured, so the door you actually use stays open. This isn't luxury. It's shock control. A country that can set a speed limit can set a medical bill limit. 2. A home you can keep. Housing is the beam under everything else. Predictable leases. Notice before hikes, caps on mid-lease jumps, basic habitability with teeth. Fewer bottlenecks where people already live. Add apartments near jobs and transit instead of exporting workers to the freeway. Eviction diversion as default. Mediation. Back rent support, and legal help before a marshal ever knocks. More public options on the shelf. Co-ops, social housing, land trusts, so market rate isn't the only door in town. When shelter is stable, every other number in the household ledger calms down. 3. Work with a voice and a calendar. Security is time you can plan around and rules you can lean on. Advanced schedules, guaranteed minimum hours, overtime that means something again. Classification that matches reality. If you're managed like an employee, you get the protections of one. Easier on-ramps for collective bargaining, including sector-wide deals where workplaces are too scattered to organize shop by shop. Portable benefits that don't vanish because your badge did. This is not nostalgia. It's an update. A rulebook for work that moves as fast as the app managing it. 4. Money with a margin. Cushion isn't a mood, it's math. Automatic emergency savings, small steady deposits you can't forget to make, with an easy escape hatch when life hits. Safe banking within reach. Postal branches or community options that beat predatory fees. A cleaner debt lane. Cap abusive interest. Erase medical debt from credit files. Make student and consumer bankruptcy usable in practice. not just in pamphlets. Stabilizers that fire on their own in a downturn. Quick unemployment pay, monthly wage boosts for low earners, child benefits that arrive like clockwork. Households shouldn't have to run monetary policy from the kitchen table. 5. The boring machinery. The unglamorous pieces decide whether the rest actually works. Plain language notices and one-page summaries you can read without a translator. Timelines. Decisions due by a date, or they automatically extend the status quo. An ombuds with power to fix errors quickly. Redundancy on purpose. Backup servers for benefit systems, second suppliers for essential drugs, Slack that looks wasteful until the day it saves you. Public ledgers you can search. Who applied? Who qualified? Who decided? This is the opposite of spectacle. It's reliability. If that sounds like a lot, remember the scale we already tolerate for comfort. Next-day logistics, real-time maps, a million shows streaming at once. We know how to build complicated things when we value them. The difference here is attention. We've been polishing the couch while the joists cracked. Who does what? Everyone with a lever. Cities fix permits, add housing where the jobs already are, and slow evictions. States set tenant and labor rules that actually bite, modernize benefit systems, and keep hospitals from playing hide the ball. Congress funds the floor, health caps, stabilizers, baseline income supports, and keeps the money predictable. Unions and worker groups turn rules into reality. Neighbors do the small, fast things. Childcare swaps, rent court rides, clinic volunteers, the human buffer that keeps a bad week from becoming a bad year. None of this asks you to give up warmth, convenience, or the simple pleasures that make a day feel livable. It asks for sequence. Floor first, cushions second. If a policy makes rooms prettier while making lives shakier, it fails. If it makes rooms ordinary but lives steadier, it wins. Walk the 3 rooms one last time. The first taught us what scarcity costs. The second taught us what promises can do. The third taught us how easy it is to mistake shine for strength. The next room isn't about shine. It's about weight-bearing. When a bill arrives early, when a job ends by email, when luck turns, the test is simple. Do you stay standing? That's the work. Bolt the ground. Elias Winter, author of Language Matters, a space for reflection on language, power, and decline. Thanks for reading Language Matters. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work.